Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Divorce Made Me Funny podcast. I'm your host, Rheagan Chapman, and you guys, I am so excited to finally be sitting down and doing this. If you know me in real life, you have heard me utter the phrase, I want to start a podcast, I need to start a podcast. Any way you could think of saying that phrase, I have said it. So I finally decided to sit down and record the podcast that I've always wanted to record. Now I'm also filming this so I could, put it on YouTube. So if you're watching and you see me look down at my computer, I know this is crazy, but it's not crazy. I wrote out a script because I have a notorious inability to go off on tangents. So I have some key points to make sure that I wrote myself back in. So this episode is just going to be a kind of introduction episode into myself, why I started a podcast, why I named it the way I did, and my hopes and dreams for it. And towards the end, I want to get into the weekly bits that I have planned, because I feel like every podcast that I listen to has, there's like your favorites or the Rex or whatever. And I wanted mine to be more on brand and a little less predictable and basic. So I'll get into that in the stories of them later. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. So I'll start off with introducing myself. My name is Rheagan Chapman, spelt with an H. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I am 24 years old. I was born and raised in Georgetown, Texas. And if you're familiar with the Texas area, that is about 30 minutes to an hour outside of Austin. And I lived there my whole life until I graduated high school, because I went to college at the University of North Texas in Denton. And while I was in college, I actually got my degree in public relations and I minored in sociology. I'm actually looking at my diploma right now because I'm a raging narcissist and I love to hang my accomplishments on my bedroom wall. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I minored in sociology. And I always forget about that. I was kind of cornered into it. So if you also minored in something and you like accidentally fell into it, let me know, because I could have minored in something that could have been more useful to what I do now, but I didn't. I minored in sociology, and that's another story for another time. But anyway, I still currently live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I actually got a job at a digital marketing agency before I graduated college. And once I did graduate, they decided to keep me on full time. I like to say that they kept me on because I, was fun. And I always say that I'm the personality hire of my company. And if they're listening to this, it's just a joke. Like when you're kidding, but like you mean it a little bit. That's it. I'm just kidding. I do know I have some talent. But I love working there, and I'm trying to think of like hobbies that I have, or maybe like talking about my personal life a little bit. I have a brother who's ginormous. He's like 6'8", and I have a sister. Their names are Reese and Gwyneth. They go to school in College Station. They're probably like, why did you name me by name? Now everybody knows who I am. The 3 people that are listening to this. Too bad. They are my siblings. I have my dad, Troy, and my stepmom, Jennifer, my mom, Haley, and her boyfriend, Doug, who I will tell a little fun story about in a second. Most of my family lives in Georgetown as well, but I do have some family in East Texas and Arkansas. Now I'm just saying where my family's from. I'm trying to think of some hobbies now. Hobbies that I have. It's kind of hard talking about yourself. I always say that I can talk to a wall. And here I am talking to a wall with a microphone, and I'm struggling. Well, speaking of microphones, I love to karaoke. Even though I'm not good at singing. Karaoke is my thing. I love it more than anything. I also love to day drink. I'm sure y'all are like, that shouldn't be a hobby, Rheagan. That's extremely unhealthy. Get over it. I do love it. Nothing gets me going more than a mimosa on Saturday around noon. I love it. And you're in bed by 8. You know, what's a better combo than that? So there's that. More about me. I am the definition of a teenage girl in her 20s. I religiously listen to Taylor Swift and Harry Styles and Ariana Grande. I love all the teeny bop stuff, like The Summer I Turned Pretty. What else do I love? I keep up with all the pop culture things. I always know what's going on in the world because there is nothing ever going on in my personal life. So I'm like, what's going on in other people's life? Like the Olivia Rodrigo, Joshua Bassett, Sabrina Carpenter loves triangle had me in a chokehold in 2020. And I'm not ashamed of it. So, you know, you got to do what you got to do. I'm trying to think of some more things about myself. But I really think that that's the gist. I have a feeling that you'll get to know me more as I create more episodes and, you know, get in more depth. And yeah, I feel like that's a good basis. I'm trying to keep it surface level. We can get deeper at later times. That's why I didn't touch on college too much. I could do a whole episode of my entire college experience. That would be way too long. But who knows? Maybe we'll get into that later in life. It's really hard to segue into like a different topic when you don't have a co-host. I'm like, how do you just jump into the next topic seamlessly? You'd think I would think of that considering I have a script right in front of me, but I didn't. I just wrote like some bullet points. We can get into why I named the podcast the way that I did. Divorce Made Me Funny didn't just pop out of thin air. It actually kind of stemmed from the internet joke. I guess I see it on the internet. I don't know if it's considered an internet joke. I sound old when I say that. But if you've like seen the like kind of trope or some, I don't know what to call it. Like your childhood trauma made you funny. That's where that came from. My parents got divorced. That's what made me funny. I won't actually be talking about divorce probably ever. So if you're listening to this and you're like, when does she get into the divorce advice? I am going through one right now. You will not get that. And I sincerely apologize. I've never been divorced, so I don't have, you know, that experience to share for you. I'm just a child of one. And the name came also when my boss actually came into the office a couple months ago and was like, he said something. I don't remember what he said, but he said something and I responded to it. And I think he said something along the lines of like, how'd you get so funny? You know? And my instant response was like, divorce made me funny. And then like immediately I was like, that needs to be the name of the podcast, my podcast. So that's where that came from. So now I'm sitting in my bedroom. I'm sitting on my bed in my bedroom recording my first episode, which is so fun and great. And I think the thing that actually, you know, really pushed me to finally sit down and do this, because like I said earlier, I've been talking about wanting to start a podcast for like 3+ years. And my mom's boyfriend, Doug, actually bought a podcast microphone thinking he was buying a karaoke microphone for his new machine. And so when he realized that that wasn't what he purchased, he was going to go return it. And I was like, can I actually have that? And he was like, why? Are you starting a podcast? And I was like, yeah, I am. I came up with the name that week, coincidentally. And I was like, I'll start it if you give it to me. And he was like, okay. And he's been asking where this episode has been for months. I've had this for months. I've been sitting on this idea for months. And I finally just had a Saturday where I'm not doing anything. And I was like, sit down and do it, record it. So here you go, Doug. You're welcome. So that's kind of how the name originated and the story behind actually finally sitting down and writing this. So I'm going to look at my script real quick. I've talked about my personal life a little bit, my hobbies, and why the name is. But we're going to, enough about me. I want to kind of get into why I started a podcast, because who wakes up one day and just decides to do that? And I think it's because I truly have kind of found myself, I don't want to say stuck in a rut, and I've been trying to think of a better, phrase, like, because that just sounds so dramatic, but I have the same routine. I do the same exact thing every day. I go to work, I go to the gym, I make myself dinner, and then on the weekends, I, hang out with my friends. That is the cycle. That is what I do. And not that I, don't love a good routine, but you just get stuck and you're like, what can I do, to move forward? And I talked about my lack of hobbies. So I'm like, I need one. And I thought that this, could be that and be a creative outlet for me, because what's healthier than putting everything about yourself on the internet? I really, truly can't think of any healthier way or any other better hobby. I love to talk. I love to hold a microphone. I was like, this is perfect for me. So that's why I started it. And I've always believed in finding the humor in life, even in challenging situations. You can call that an unhealthy coping mechanism, but I think laughter just makes things brighter. I wrote that and I was like, look at me. That is a good sentence that I wrote. And I often find myself being self-deprecating. And I don't do that to put myself down. I really don't. I don't find that being a confidence issue. I just think that life is too short to take everything so seriously. You got to be able, don't get me wrong. There are certain life situations where you should take seriously. I could name a few, but I'm sure you already have an idea of, you're like, Rheagan, we shouldn't joke about that. But also, like, why can't you? But still, I really think it's best to just be able to look back and laugh at those mistakes that you made, Be able to just giggle it off and do it for the plot. So text him or her, live in your delusion, do it, and then laugh about it later. We always laugh about it later anyway, so why not start laughing now? I don't know. And that's why it's called Divorce Made Me Funny. Just that. That is why it's called. And this podcast, kind of aims to explore, life's humorous side and embracing those ups and downs of navigating your 20s. Because your 20s are an insane time in your life. There are so many different routes that you can take when you're in your 20s. So if you're not in them yet, if you're a younger listener, buckle up. Or if you're well past them and you're like, yeah, my 20s were crazy. I'm living them right now. I see so many people my age doing such different things. Like, you can be married with children at this age and it be acceptable. You can be, single and focused on your career. You can be in school. Like, there's so many things that people are doing, and there's so many different experiences that everyone's having. But also at the same time, we're all feeling the same thing. So that's kind of the point, to be able to take all of these different experiences or talk about mine, whether if yours is different or not, and be able to be like, I relate to that. I really, truly do. And yeah, the point of this podcast is kind of to be like girl talk. Not that you can't be a boy and listen to this, but it might be more for the girls, considering, not to put gender norms into it, but the reason I say that is because I made my logo, which is pink and, yellow, and I've got all the girly colors, and I showed it to a guy who works in my building, and he like does that for a living. Like he creates logos and, helps brand companies. And I was like, hey, like come look at my podcast logo that I created. And he was like, oh. And I was like, what? And he was like, what audience are you trying to reach? And I was like, I haven't thought that far. And he was like, well, like I wouldn't click on this if I just saw it. And I was like, well, thank you. That means it's not for you. Like it's really just to draw the people in who want to be here and who want to listen. That's the point, because I'm not aiming for fame. I mean, do not get me wrong. It would be nice. I'm like, give me that brand deal, Sugar Bear Hair, please. BetterHelp, I would love a sponsorship. But, oh my God, I'm sorry. But I really, truly just want to connect with an audience, whether it's 3 or 3 million. That'd be cool. But I just hope you resonate with like my experiences or find humor in your own. And that's a win for me, honestly. This podcast is just a space for real talk, just like you're talking to your friends. It's going to be real casual, real conversational. It's like if you're watching this, I'm in a giant sweatshirt that makes me look like I'm pregnant. I'm not in a suit, so it's not going to be anything crazy. It's not going to be interview style. It's not going to be anything. And I have like some great ideas. I have a lot of people in mind that I want to bring on. I have a lot of friends who have the different experiences that I'm talking about, and they're like different, personality wise, and they're fun and they're funny. And I'm sure they're listening and they're like, oh my God, I have a plan for each and every single one of you. And I really hope that you would want to come on and do this with me. Or if you just want to, not do that and just listen and support, that's also greatly appreciated. But I hope that they all come on and you can see them or other people, because I think solo episodes are great, but it's also good to listen to other people and other people's perspectives, because sometimes you can be like, Rheagan, shut up. I'm tired of listening to you. Can you bring on anybody else? So, yes. Segue into hopes and dreams for this podcast. Well, it's simple. I want to be relatable. I feel like I can be pretty relatable. I want, to talk about my experiences and hope that you may be going through the same thing. And I want you to feel seen and understood. And if it brings a smile to your face and makes you think like, I'm not alone in this, that seems really deep, but then I've achieved my goal. That's the point, and of course I have a passion for storytelling. My friends know this. I am famous for repeating the same stories over and over and over again. My friends are literally like, Rheagan, we've heard this. We've heard you talk. Like, we know the ending. And I'm like, but please, I just want to tell you again. This story is amazing. I love, telling it to them for the first time and getting their reactions and listening to their stories and learning from those. And I think the repeating of stories is a part of my charm. At least I think it is. But that's the essence. And I know I did research before I jumped in headfirst into starting a podcast. I researched how to start one and how to do it right, because if I am going to do it, I want to do it the right way. And I read that when you first start out and a podcast is a long form of content. It's kind of like someone has to sit down and listen or watch. And it's a lot to ask of an hour of someone's time. Majority of podcasts are about 45 minutes to an hour. And I believe you have to build up to that. You have to, start off small and work your way up. So this episode isn't long. I'm actually almost done. You're probably like, thank God. So this episode was real, surface level, generic, an introduction. Like I said, hello, thank you, So as it goes on, I'm sure it'll get longer and longer, but for the meantime, they'll be pretty short episodes. So I'm not asking for too much from you guys, I promise. So at the end, I do, like I said, I want to get into the weekly bits and the ideas that I have for them. So I have 3 that starting, next week or next episode will start off with them. So the first one will be your bow day of the week. And I'll tell the little story about that so you understand it. Most of my friends do understand it. I've kind of started a little inside joke, if you will, about bow days. The bow day phenomenon is what I call it. And I'm looking at it right now, my little bow. But a couple years ago, maybe a year and a half, it was in January of 22. So almost 2 years ago. I bought a bow from Target because I had a gift card and I was like shipping things to my house and I needed to spend a couple more bucks to like get free shipping. So I was like, what can I buy? That's, useful and that I'll get some use out of. So I decided to buy like a $5 bow, for your hair, by the way, not like a ribbon, like for a present, your hair. And I bought it. And then it was my friend Caroline's birthday and we went out to dinner and I decided to wear it. I was like, I'm going to wear this bow. So first time wearing a bow, I thought I looked stupid. I was living with Allison, my friend Allison at the time. And I was like, does this look stupid? Like, am I making a awful choice here? She's like, no, it looks so cute. We go to dinner and I can't remember the name of this place, but if you're in the Dallas area, they're famous for their ranch waters. So we went there and we're sitting at this table and this man comes up to the table. And I usually am not one who gets that attention from guys, not like in a, I'm ugly. That's not what I'm trying to say. But when I'm out with my friends, men don't necessarily approach me. And this guy comes up and I'm just not even really paying attention. And he was just like, I just thought you were so beautiful. I tried to get your attention earlier, but you didn't hear me. And he worked at the bar and he was like, can I get your number? And I was like, are you talking to me? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, wait, does age bother you? And I was like, hello? Because he did look older. And I was like, well, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 35. And I was like, I don't know if age bothers me because a 35-year-old man has never hit on me in my entire life. I look 12. And I'm like, you could be a pedophile if I'm kidding. I'm kidding. And I was 22. So I gave him my number and he was like, where are y'all going to next? And we were like, Skellig, which is a bar in Dallas. And it's kind of like a young person bar. And he was like, I'll meet y'all there. He meets us at this bar. I kid you not. And I was freaking out. And we were like, the bow has powers. It's a bow day. And I was like, what is happening? And it ended up obviously not working out with this 35-year-old man because he was a fucking weirdo. Literally, Caroline, actually, it was Caroline's birthday. I don't know if I mentioned that. She was walking around the bar at one point and saw him talking to other girls and buying them drinks. And she runs back to our table and was like, he is not sitting with us. I've never seen Caroline ever get angry at people before. So she was like, he's not sitting with us. This guy's an asshole. He's buying other women drinks, blah, blah, blah. And so he comes to our table and, he sits down or he doesn't sit down yet. He hands me a drink and I'm like, I'm not drinking this. And I did not see you purchase this, sir. And he was like, or Caroline was like, get out of here. Get out. And he was like, huh? And he was like, you suck. Just leave. We don't want you here. I saw you buying other drinks for other women. Get out. And I was like, bye, buddy. I wasn't really saying much. I was like, yeah, you should probably leave. And he leaves. And I remember he texted me and was like, does your friend think we're dating? Like, am I not allowed to talk to other girls? And I was like, oh my God, dude, calm down. And then like 2 days later, he texted me again saying, I still want to get to know you. And I was like, get out of here. And ever since that day, the bow day was born. So the bow does have powers. Majority of the time that I wear a bow, something crazy happens, and you can't abuse the bow power. You can't wear a bow every day because not every day will be a bow day. You have to save it, for a rare occasion or a special occasion or like just a day where you need to pick me up. And when I say bow day of the week, it doesn't mean you have to wear a bow that day of the week. It's your best day. Like, what happened that made it the best day of the week for you? Like, for example, I'm filming this on November 4th, so it's Saturday, and my bow day this week was Thursday. We were on a high, like all my friends were, not like literally high, but on a high from the Rangers winning the World Series for the first time ever. We had watched it the night before, and then Thursday, every Thursday I go and play trivia. And so we were like, this is our World Series. My parents came to play with us, and I'd been begging them to come for weeks, and they finally came, and we ended up winning. We got first place in trivia, which means we got a $25 gift card to the bar where we play trivia at, and that was, a high in and of itself. I mean, only 4 teams were playing, so like it wasn't that much competition, and we've only won one other time. So, example, that was my bow day of the week. My second little weekly bit that we'll start off is also your humbling experience of the week, or just a humbling moment that you had. Because I also believe that everybody needs to be humbled every once in a while, because you can't be an arrogant piece of shit. You need to like come back down to earth and remember who you are at your essence. And my humbling experience, I couldn't really think of one that happened this week. I do have one, but I didn't want to share it because it has to do with work. And so I'm not going to share it. But one that I had that's not as super humbling, but it's the only one that comes to mind is I grew up watching my brother play baseball. My dad also played baseball, and my grandpa, like, baseball is just a big sport in the fam. So I understand baseball pretty well. And I also understand football. I never want to look like an idiot when I'm watching them. So I'm like, yeah, I know what a down is. Field goal, touchdown, home run, that kind of thing. And in baseball, there are innings. There's 9 innings. And when you're talking about what part of the inning it is, it's either the top of the inning or the bottom of the inning. So like top of the 9th, bottom of the 9th. Oh, bottom of the 2nd, that's the lingo. And my friends and I, every Sunday, we do Super Sunday. My friend Emma makes a soup, and then we watch the Cowboys. And then we freeze a bit of each soup that is made, and then on Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to reheat all the soups and have, people over to try all the soups. And we were watching the Cowboys one week, and I think Emma was in the kitchen cooking. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I do remember kind of just being a little humbled because she asked like what part of the game it's at. And it was just the end of the 3rd quarter. Like there were a couple minutes left. And instead of saying, 3 minutes left in the 3rd quarter, I literally was like, it's the bottom of the 3rd. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's the bottom of the 3rd quarter. And she was like, we're not watching baseball. We're watching football. And I was like, oh, and everyone giggled, and it was just a little humble experience. Like, okay, Rheagan, stop. I was trying to be a sports girl. I was just trying to, understand the lingo. So that's a little humbling experience for you all. I'm sure there'll be more violent in the coming weeks. So it's just an example. And then my last one, I decided to do something basic, which is like a recommendation / favorite of the week. And my rec and my favorites right now is definitely, it's a rosé. It's called Whispering Angel. It's my stepmom and I's favorite rosé. It's just so good. And I remember when I first had it, I had it with her, and my dad and stepmom have kind of a more elevated wine taste, if you will. Like, they just drink more expensive bottles than I do, because I can't afford a $50 bottle of wine. And so I thought that this rosé was just like exquisite, and I was like, I could never get this, so I'd only drink it at home. And then I remember Jennifer telling me one day, she was like, you can get this at Target for like $20. And I was like, what? You can? No way. And you can. You can. And so if you love rosé and you only get the Yes Way rosé like I used to, there's another bottle called Whispering Angel that I love. It's delicious. It's crisp. It's light. It's everything I want in a rosé. And I don't get it a lot because you never want to get tired of like your favorite thing. So that is my rec. And that kind of concludes the first episode of Divorce Made Me Funny. So again, thank you for listening. And I want you to buckle up for this journey through the confusing and exhilarating world of your 20s. I'm going to read what I wrote here because I like it. Life is a roller coaster, and I'm here to share the ride with you. That was cheesy as hell, but it's true. So stay tuned for upcoming episodes, and we'll dive into a plethora of topics and get in the nitty-gritty of life and explore different perspectives and maybe find a little bit of humor in all of it. So thank you for joining me on this very first episode. Again, I'm Rheagan, and I can't wait to put out more episodes for you guys and for you to listen in. And so until next time, keep laughing, stay positive, and remember, you're not alone in this crazy, crazy life. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time, or you'll hear me next time.